Now we're going to talk about how to calculate cosines and sines of double angle and triple angle, okay? 2x and 3x. So we'll start with cosine of 2x. First of all, if you look at the top, what I show at the very top is two formulas that we need to use today. It's a cosine of sum and sine of sum, which we derived in the previous videos. And now we're going to look at cosine of 2x. The trick here is just to simply realize that 2x is x plus x. And now we got cosine of x plus x, and we can use a formula for cosine of sum of two angles. The difference between the top formula and what we're going to write here is that we replace y with x. Okay? So this is what we're going to get. Now I have cosine x times cosine x minus sine x times sine x. So cosine times cosine is cosine squared, sine x times sine x is sine x squared. And this is what we're going to get. And this is our formula, working formula for cosine of 2x. Now, let's put it up. And we look at sine of 2x. Same idea. It's sine of x plus x. And now we can use this formula for sum of sine of sum. So we get sine x times cosine x plus cosine x times sine x. We see we have sine x times cosine x here twice. And our formula is 2 sine x cosine x. Okay? So far, so good. Very easy. Now, we would like to calculate cosine and sine of triple x. Okay. Before we do this, we need to play a little bit with this formula for cosine of 2x. Well, let's remind ourselves the most important formula in trigonometry. It's sine squared plus cosine squared is always 1 for the same angle, for an angle. And what we can do is this formula, we can replace, using this formula, we can replace sine squared with cosine squared. And that's going to look like this. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to use this formula. We use this expression for sine squared x in the formula for cosine of 2x. We're going to replace sine squared is 1 minus cosine squared. And if we do that, we're going to have a formula like this. Cosine 2x is 2 cosine squared x minus 1. And that's the formula we need now. So next thing we're going to do, we acknowledge that cosine of 3x is cosine of 2x plus x, right? And then we can use a formula for cosine of sum, which is right here. This is what we're going to get. And now we're going to use this formula for cosine of 2x and this formula for sine of 2x. Right? And this is what we're going to have. Now, let's notice that we can open this parenthesis. We get 2 cosine square x times cosine x, it's cosine cube x, minus 1 times cosine x, which is cosine x. And over here we see 2 sine x, cosine x, sine x, so their sine x comes twice, so it makes it sine squared x. And this is what we're going to get. So the first two terms, which you see here, comes from this term. And the last term is just a little bit modified, the last term. Okay? All right. Now notice we got sine squared x. And we already have this formula for sine squared x right here. And that's what we're going to put here. This is what we're going to get. And again, we're going to open the parentheses. We have 2 cosine x times 1, okay? And then we have 2 cosine x times cosine square x. Again, cosine x, cosine square x give us cosine cube x. And also remember there's minus here, and they give us plus. And this is what we're going to get. So the last 2 terms here comes from the last term in here. And now we see that just simply we need to collect the similar quantities. So we have 2 cosine cube and another 2 cosine cube. It's 4 cosine cube. Now minus cosine and minus 2 cosine, which means minus 3 cosine. And here's our final formula. Let's put it up. Now, the last formula we want to derive is sine of 3x. Before we do this, we need to do some extra work, similar to what we did before. You know that sine square plus cosine square is 1. From here, we express cosine square as 1 minus sine square. And then what we can do, we can use this value for cosine square to put in this formula for cosine of 2x. In this case, we get that cosine of 2x is 1 minus 2 sine square x. All right. Now we're ready to go. Sine of 3x is sine of 2x plus x. That's obvious. And then we're going to use the formula for sine of sum of 2 angles. This is what we're going to get. Now we have sine of 2x, and this is 2 sine x cosine x. It's right here. And then we have cosine of 2x. We're going to use this formula for that. 1 minus 2 sine square x. This is what we're going to get. Again, here we have 2 sine x cosine x times cosine x. This is cosine square x. And here we can open up parentheses. We get 1 times sine x minus 2 times sine square x times sine x, which gives us minus 2 sine cube x. All right. So the first term comes from the first term here, and the other 2 terms come from here. Okay. Now we have cosine square x. Cosine square x is here. We have it here. It's 1 minus sine square x. Let's put it in. Now we open the parentheses. 2 sine x times 1. It's 2 sine x. Then minus 2 sine x times sine square x. And that will be minus 2 sine cube x. These 2 terms comes from here. And now again we're counting the similar terms. 2 sine and 1 sine is 3 sines. Then minus 2 sine cube. And one more time minus 2 sine cube is minus 4 times sine cube. And that's our final formula. So, and let's again look at these formulas again. We have 2 formulas for double angle, cosine and sine of 2x, and a triple angle, cosine and sine of 3.